So I was actually thinking, because there's a lot of content out there that talks about how like nobody wants to work anymore, nobody's hiring anymore. But I mean, I have family members who have careers still, and I'm actually just starting a new job in a couple days. So people are obviously hiring. I think the reality of the situation is that a lot of people have quit looking for hiring, and a lot of people don't want to work a 9 to 5 job. And there's a lot of like warranted criticisms about the current job market. You know, a lot of jobs don't pay enough for people to support, and it's hard to want to work yourself into the ground for, money that's not going to pay the bills. Some people have to take on 2 or 3 jobs or do side hustles, which honestly isn't always a bad thing. I think you should always work to be your own boss, and a day job's not the end all be all. And there's tons of day jobs out there. If you don't like the one you're working at, you could always quit, go to the next one. And I don't think I've ever quit a job because of the work. I've usually quit it because of a toxic environment or just bad workers or everything, especially working in blue collar, which I did take on another blue collar position. So I'm going in with an open mind. If it's a healthy environment, I'll stick with it. I'm going to learn some things on the way because I still do value the knowledge that has a lot of value beyond just money. But obviously, if it's a toxic environment, I'm going to probably skedat and say it's not worth it. Like, just go into the work environment with an open mind. But why is it to all these people who have kind of swallowed the black pill of just not wanting to work and throw in the towel? Why is it that they're doing it? Is it because they're lazy? Not necessarily. But maybe because they've worked really hard for what they, thought was going to be more than what they were really getting. And I'm going to be honest, as someone who has done a lot of certifications, I've passed my Security Plus exam. I've seen what some of these cybersecurity entry level positions were offering, and not a whole lot of solid training or anything from what I could see. Just bad employee reviews all over. And I know that there's entitled employees out there, but when everyone's saying the same thing, you probably know where to point the finger at. And I think some people are just unfortunate enough to bump in a unhealthy environment after unhealthy environment before they start to get it in their mind that maybe the black pill's the way to go, and maybe nobody's really worth their time. So they realize they're living in like a toxic society, not getting paid enough, so all they could do now is just kind of give up. I was even hanging out with one of my buddies while we were going camping. He was saying it's like not that people don't want to work, because I think a vast majority of people aren't even lazy, but I do think that sometimes our egos clash at work. Everyone wants to be the big guy in charge. Like, team meetings are starting to be a thing in the past because everyone's putting a giant I in team. In fact, I've had that before. Like, for example, when I was working as a fabricator and I was making car parts and we were shipping them out, I was working in this warehouse while I was fabricating. And the one girl that was running the warehouse was very nice, awesome to work with. She thought I did an amazing job. Always positive reception from her. She liked being around me, but she was clashing heads with all the departments and all the higher ups. I didn't realize I was in the bubble of the company for a number of years. Then she left, and then they rehired a guy who walked off the job years ago just because he didn't feel like showing up to work one day, and he has to start posturing. And then I get to work in other departments and realize why exactly my boss left. And seeing how, silent she was about the situation, she could only take so much. And I think that's a lot of people. But that's what I'm trying to get at, is you get in these bad, toxic environments where everyone just wants to butt heads, argue, get aggressive with each other. Life's hard enough as it is. Things pop up. And when you work for 8 hours a day, you want to be around people who don't give you a headache or don't make you feel like you have to constantly leap to the defense, because there are hostile work environments out there. Trust me, even working blue collar, I know as many good environments as I've had just as many that were filled with former felons who thought they were still in the prison yard. As many good trainers as I've also had some trainers who expected me to get it all on day one, and if I didn't get it on day one, I was the problem. Speaking of which, you can't expect a training period to be done short, sweet, and to the point. Development on a certain skill takes time, and that's why people accept these jobs, not just so they could get paid, but so they could learn something new while they're getting paid. And a lot of our job culture doesn't really want growth anymore. And yeah, sure, when you look at all these negatives, obviously you're going to develop a more black pill take. And although I don't think it's all despair, because, like my last job that I left for this one, I gave him my 2 weeks' notice and was very nice to management about it because on my way out, I figured the company had done a really good job, like taking care of me. That I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna have a good, clean exit. Make sure I'm not just leaving you guys hanging dry. I trained the guy that was there to take my position afterwards, and I paid it forward because I realized that I would have to say a lot of environments are so toxic that when you find one that is worth it, you hold it to high regards. Because although it's not all hopeless, I understand where people are getting this despair mantra where being an average American is just not worth it anymore. And I would urge to all those people to kind of, try to look around a little bit more. If you don't like your current environment, look for another one that probably is a little bit healthier. And understand that, yeah, in a way, it is just a job. If it's so toxic, it's causing you physical sickness, step away from it. It's not worth it anymore. Because I think where this despair is coming from, there's a lot of truths to it. And especially seeing the younger generations take over, which have a lot more quote unquote entitlement and narcissism. I even watched a TikTok where one girl was, talking to HR over the phone for her TikTok, and a lot of people in the comment section were siding with HR, saying she was being deluded. So main character syndrome has definitely seeped into the workspace and made it a little bit more of a harder, more stressful place than people should have to actually realistically put up with. But what are we going to have to do to turn it around? I mean, I think that is a multi-layered thing. Because if you look around, I think there's just as many companies who want to do it right who are struggling to find good workers who are reliable. And there's really good workers that are struggling to find a workplace that isn't toxic, that they can just show up, do a good job, and they're really not asking for too much. I think it all boils down to the human ego, because that's what a lot of it comes down to. Sometimes the low pay, I think that's a human ego thing. When employees, ask for too much, ego. When they think that they could just come and go to work as they please, ego. When the company thinks that they can treat workers like garbage and they're going to stick around and continue to take the abuse, ego. But realistically, I can't make the human ego just go away by snapping my fingers and making it all, sunshine and lollipops. I'm just saying, I think a lot of people, a vast majority of society, especially with the age of social media, narcissism, I feel like the earth would benefit from an ego death, if you know what I'm talking about. But if you look at human history, I don't know if that's very realistic. But until then, I would just say, if you're looking for a non-toxic work environment, just remember those are out there. And if you're looking for skills that pay really well, they are out there. Not everything is just a minimum wage job out there, and there's a lot of skills that are very valuable that I don't think AI can replace anytime soon. So if you've been taking the black pill, I would stop swallowing the black pill, but just remember what those doses taught you, and just remember to separate the fact from the despair, and just come at life and work with kind of an open mind and just take it for what it is and what it shows you it is. But it's not a one-size-fits-all scenario like everything else in life. But I will see y'all on the next one. I just wanted to let you know that, hey, I know there's a lot of despair out there, but it's not all despair.